my 3.5-year-old because he was asking us on the way here, what are we getting ready to do? What are we getting ready to celebrate? And so, to kind of ease him, I said, Mommy is going to tell a story. So, of course, children like that. So, let me honor that 3-year-old. I'm going to tell y'all a little story. When I was very young, I used to ask my mother to read me a story. It was one of my favorite stories when I was growing up. And it was called Piggy Wiglet's Big Adventure. I was probably about 7 or 8 years old. But that was my favorite story, and I would always ask her to read this story to me. And the story is about a little pig who lived on a farm, surrounded by, white gate, kind of enclosed in this particular area. It didn't really do a lot, kind of everyday stuff on the farm, right? And one day, Piggy Wiglet woke up, and he had this bright idea. He wanted to escape. He wanted to get out. He wanted to explore the world. He wanted to have a big adventure. And so he decided he was going to leave his little place, his comfortable place, and do something different. And he did. And so throughout the story, you see this little Piggy Wiglet just kind of trotting along with a big bright smile, not caring about what anybody else said, and he just went on and explored. And of course, there were the naysayers, the ducks and the horses and everybody else that was telling him, don't go and don't do this. But Piggy Wiglet just kind of kept on going, and he had his little bright smile. In the process, you could tell in the story that he was going after something, and he was trying to go and reach the sun. So he kept going in the direction of where the sun was pointing. He just hoped he could just catch up to it, and that was really the story. Now, at 7 years old, roughly, somewhere around that time, I didn't really know why I liked that story. I couldn't tell you today why I like that story. But standing here at 37, I can tell you why I love that story now, because it really mirrors a part of my journey and why I'm standing here today. When I was 16 years old is when I really started working, and pretty much today just never stopped. It was something that you do, you get up, you knew you had to do something with your life, you go to school, you get that education, that wonderful education, and you start working. And that's what I did at 16, and I just never stopped. But a couple of years ago, I recognized that I wasn't being fulfilled. There was something in my life that I knew I needed to do something more. Just like Piggy Wiglet. It was like I knew I needed something more. I didn't know what that was yet, but I knew I needed to do something different. I was not being fulfilled where I was. And it was interesting because a couple of years before where I am now, I knew that I wanted to be somewhere else. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And I think we sometimes find ourselves in that place. We know we don't want to be where we're at, but we really don't know what steps to take in the journey yet. So every day I would get up and I would go to work. And it was a place where I knew I didn't want to be. And I would just be praying on the way to work, Lord, please don't let me get angry at anybody today. Please give me patience, give me peace. I don't want to get into it with any customers. Just help me. And then I would also pray and thank Him for my new career. And I didn't know what that was. I literally had no idea. And this was a year before I started my business. And every day I would say this over and over again. And I kind of spoke it into existence is how I look at it. So a lot of what you're going to find in this book is really the result of my journey. It's raw, it's not fluffy, it's my truth, and I hope it helps you. And it's not a message that I believe you haven't heard before. I don't think you've ever not heard a motivational speaker or something inspirational, a quote, a poem. There's nothing in this book that I believe, the essence of it, that you haven't heard before. But I do believe that I'm providing it in a different way. That I'm going to give you a little something different to take away with you. Because the truth of the matter is, sometimes we hear all this stuff and it goes in one ear and right the other. And we don't hold on to it. And so for some of us, this message is going to hopefully stick with you. It's just like your parents. When you are younger, you don't recognize how important their messages are until you grow up and you have kids of your own. And you're like, man, I really should have listened to my parents. So it's something like that. So I'm hoping that this message here in this book is going to help you. It's my truth, it's my story. And for a lot of people in this audience, or I know most of you, I'm very open in this book. I'm very vulnerable in this book. This is not a place for my friends who know me that I allow people in that space a lot. So I'm sharing things about my life, because who wants to tell people that, there's a time where, you were 22 years old and you got married, and then a couple of years later you got divorced? Or who wants to tell people that, your financial situation looks very bleak? And then you want to be awesome. Who else wants to share that, you got let go from a job? So these are all very personal stories that I share because I want to be able to impart some of my learning and my lessons to everybody. And it took me a long time to write this book. Someone asked me earlier when I came in, how long did it take me to write this book? And it took me about a year to write this book. Now, if you look at it, it's a pretty small book. It really is a very quick read. You can literally get through it in a day. But it took me a year because I kept sitting around thinking, what do I want to write about? And if you hear what I say, what do I want to write about? It wasn't what do people want to hear. What is going to be good for people to know about me or to help them in their lives? Because as a coach, that's one thing that we do is we want to help people kind of have their own discovery and realization. So for me, I had to take a step back and not think about what I wanted, but what I could help people with. And so it took me a long time to really get that message, but once it came, that was it, and I could write. And the book was done literally in a matter of weeks after that. So again, I want you to be able to take this book with you, the lessons in there, you can write in it. I love books where you can write in, so you can take the lessons in here and learn from it. So here I have a question for you. Because on the cover of the book, and again, this is where I think it'll be a little bit different than maybe another message that you've heard before. What do you think of when you think of boxing? Tell me what you think of. What does that represent to you? Anybody any boxing fans in here?
Fight.
Fight? Okay, yes. Being tough, fight, right? So when you have these boxing gloves, and here's what I say, because when I thought about the title and the cover for this book, and I actually have my cover designer who's sitting here, and he knows we went back and forth on this cover design, and God bless him, we went back and forth on this cover design. But why do you think I chose the boxing glove? It represents fight, it represents being tough, right? Knock somebody out, right? You want to knock somebody out. And here's the thing, wherever you are in your life right now, the boxing gloves can represent something different for you. For me, it totally represents a fight because I'm gearing up for something. I don't know what's coming my way, but I'm gearing up for something. For somebody else, these boxing gloves may already represent a fight that they had, maybe something that they've already accomplished. So that might be the space and the place where you are in your life. For somebody else, it might represent something different. So whatever the answer is, it's the right answer for you. But I want you to think about that because it's really where you are in your life is what that's going to represent. But for most of you, it's going to be correct. Whatever your answer is, it's going to be correct. But I'm going to tell you something. How many of you have this? How many of you have bookmark? Okay. So if you want to get the essence of the book, I'm going to tell you what it is right now. Take out your bookmark. If you have one, flip it on over. Okay, wave it up in the air. Who has the bookmarks? Let's see. Okay, perfect. So here's the essence of the book. If you don't walk away with anything else today, and I do hope you walk away with some stuff, but if you don't walk away with anything, I want you to walk away with this message right here. There's a quote on the back of this bookmark, and I want us to all read this quote together. Okay, let's go. Failure is inevitable. Defeat is optional. Wow, isn't that powerful? I mean, just let that sink in for a minute. Failure is inevitable, but defeat is optional. And here's how you can personalize it for yourself. I know there are going to be things in my life that are not going to go my way, that are not going to go the way that I thought they were going to go, but I don't have to let it defeat me. And that's how you can personalize it for yourself. There are going to be things in life where you're going to fail at, but that doesn't mean that you're a failure. Right? I don't have to let it defeat me. And that's the message that I want you to walk away with, that I want you to tell yourself when you get in those situations and things happen, that you look at that quote and you think of, wow, things are going to happen. Failure is going to come. It's part of the process. But I don't have to let it defeat me. I had a client, I want to say a few months ago. She lives in Florida, by the way, and we were having a conversation on the phone. I was asking her about her business. She just started a business, and she kind of responded, oh, kind of everything's okay. But I could tell that something wasn't okay. So I went ahead and had a conversation and talked to her a little bit, and I got on the subject about failure. And I asked her, I said, tell me your thoughts on failure. Tell me a little bit about, how you feel about your success and accomplishing things in life. And we got down to the nitty gritty, and I said, let me tell you something. And I said exactly that quote. I said, learn to embrace failure because it's part of the process. But because you embrace it doesn't mean you have to be defeated. And I gave her the example of Thomas Edison, everybody knows that story. Thomas Edison, took him 10,000 times before he discovered the light bulb. But do we have light at the end of the day? And the answer is, and I told her, I said, the good thing is you won't fail 10,000 times, so be happy about that. But you are going to have some failures. And she just simply could not embrace that. It was just so hard for her to accept. And I think that's how some of us feel. It's hard for us to accept that we're going to have failures in our life. But once you do accept that and know that you're not going to be a failure, then I think you're going to make your journey a lot easier. One of the things that I talk about in the book, for those of you who have it, and maybe a couple of you have actually already read it, why do we have such a difficult time embracing failure? And I happen to think it's because we're brought up with this winning mentality. Your parents don't raise you thinking, you want to be the last person to win the race. Yay! That's not what they tell you. You want to be number one. You want to win, right? That's success, winning. But I believe true success and the true measurement of success is your character. When you have a boxer go into a fight, there's two people that go in, but only one person takes home the belt, right? So what do you think that person who didn't win, that boxer who didn't win, what do you think he's doing? There you go. He's getting ready for the next fight. He's not having his head down like, woe is me, I lost the battle, darn. He's like, okay, I'm getting ready to go in the gym, I'm getting ready to work it out so I can come back and beat this person, whoever it is. So you have to have that mindset. We have to start changing our thoughts. And that's really the book, is learning how to change your thoughts and your mindset about what it really means